Hi, and welcome to Zakim's Kitchen Home Edition. I'm Stephanie Myers, and today we're making high fiber muffins. These are muffins I make on a regular basis for my family, and the things I love most about them are they contain very little added sugar as compared to muffins you might buy in the supermarket or at a bakery, and they're very flexible using whole wheat flour and whatever breakfast cereal you have on hand or prefer. So let's get started. The dry ingredients are where we're going to begin with this recipe. We're going to start with 1 1/4 cups of whole wheat flour. Again, adding enough fiber in and of itself, but we're also going to really amp up the fiber in this recipe by adding 3/4 cup of a breakfast cereal. So I'm choosing a high fiber all bran cereal here. I also can often use Weetabix cereal, which is another high fiber cereal. And how we're going to use this cereal in these muffins is we're going to actually grind it up and pulverize it. So I'm showing you here the pulverized version, and there's 2 ways you can get this done. If you happen to have a coffee grinder, you can go ahead and use that. And so I'm going to show you how I take the 3/4 cup of raw dry cereal and just dump it into the coffee grinder. And then a few quick pulses of the coffee grinder. We'll get this cereal ground up. Now, if you don't have a coffee grinder at home, or you're not so keen on putting dry cereal in with your coffee grinds where you grind your coffee, a quick kitchen hack you can use is to just take a reusable lunch pouch. This is my kid's lunch pouch. I just take the dry cereal, put it inside this pouch, and either bang it on the countertop with a hammer or take a rolling pin and just roll over that. That will get you an equally pulverized cereal. Again, this is a high fiber, all bran or Weetabix style cereal of your choosing. So that's going to add another 10 grams of fiber to these muffins. Now, a typical grocery store or bakery muffin will have as many as 10 grams of added sugar per muffin. And for this entire recipe, we're just going to add 3 tablespoons of sugar total. So we're looking at per muffin only 3 grams of sugar as compared to 10 grams of sugar in a muffin you might buy otherwise. And then we're going to add 3 teaspoons of baking powder and a teaspoon of cinnamon. So that's our dry ingredients all coming together, and I'm just going to give those a quick whisk to stir them up. Now, these muffins you can also add shredded coconut, unsweetened shredded coconut, walnuts. I often add frozen blueberries. And if you're going to add any of those items to these muffins, you want to add them right now. So for example, if you were going to add frozen blueberries, you would toss them into the dry ingredients. And the reason for that is if you coat the blueberries in this dry powdery mix, you're going to be able to help those blueberries stay in the muffin instead of all sink to the bottom of the muffin pan. So we're going to leave the blueberries out for today just to keep it a pure banana bran muffin. But we've got our dry ingredients ready, so we're ready to move on to our wet ingredients. So this recipe calls for 3 ripe bananas. So if you've got some bananas that have gotten kind of bruised and banged up, you're in good luck. This is just the type of banana you want, a nice ripe banana. You can, when you have these bananas going brown on your countertop, you can also just stick them in the freezer whole. And so I have little clusters of bananas like this in one section of my freezer. And I just store them until I have 3 bananas ready, and then I'm ready to make these muffins. If you're using the bananas from frozen, you can just take them out of the freezer whole, and they'll take about 30 minutes on the countertop to thaw out. The banana will turn a very dark brown, but don't worry, it's still perfectly fine to use in the muffins. So we're going to take 3 ripe bananas, and we're going to mash them up. And this is going to give a real, a natural sweetness to this muffin, as well as some increased moisture. So these are nice, a tender muffin because of the banana content. So you can use a fork, a potato masher, whatever you have that makes it easy for you to sort of just smash these bananas with the fork. This is another great activity for the young chefs in your life. If you have any helpers in your kitchen who want to help you make the muffins, smashing bananas is a great task. All right, so we want to get the bananas mashed pretty well so there's not chunks in the bananas. You want them nice and smooth. No chunks and no strings. So you're going to keep mashing until you get them to that consistency. So the mashed bananas are going to be the foundation of our wet ingredients for this recipe. You can see they're turning almost like an applesauce type consistency, and that's where we want to get these to before we mix them with the remainder of the wet ingredients. So a few small chunks is fine, but you want to really get most of the big pieces broken up. All right, so now we have 3 ripe mashed bananas, and to that we're going to add 4 other ingredients. I like to start with the egg. I just scooch my banana mixture over in the bowl, and then I add my egg in the corner here, and that gives me a chance to keep the dishes to a minimum, which you know we love to do in Zakim's kitchen, and whisk this egg sort of in the side of the banana bowl. So you don't have to take a separate bowl out to whisk that. You just crack your egg in here and whisk that right in. And then we have 3 other ingredients to add. A 1/4 cup of oil of your choice. I'm using avocado oil today. A 1/4 cup of milk of your choice. This is almond milk, unsweetened almond milk. And then a teaspoon of vanilla extract. So there are our wet ingredients. So I'm just going to give these a gentle stir. And then we're going to combine our wet ingredients. We're going to put our wet ingredients into our dry ingredients. You'll start doing that by just making a well at the center of your dry ingredients. Make a little hole in the middle here. And we'll begin by trying to hit that hole as best we can with the wet ingredients. So you're going to add that and not over stir. You want to do just a gentle stir to combine here. So I'm just going to use my spatula and sort of bring the dry ingredients in, fold them into the center. Now you can see because we've added a high fiber cereal, the muffin mix itself is going to be a little bit drier than some other consistencies of muffin mix you may have used before. But quite quickly the bananas sort of take over and help out here to get that to come together. And this is just the right consistency. If you find that this dough is a batter is a bit dry, or you see patches of dry cereal and flour as you're mixing it, just splash a little bit more of whatever type of milk you have. An extra tablespoon or 2 of milk can definitely help out. So this one's just on the cusp of where I might normally add that milk, but it's gonna work out just fine because it's coming together nicely. So with that, I've pre-greased with a light cooking spray the non-stick pan. You can also use muffin liners if you prefer, but since these are such high fiber muffins, I find that they tend to stick to the paper. And with the, when you put them straight into the pan without liners, they're gonna get a nice crisp edge around the whole thing. So I prefer to use no muffin liners when I'm making these muffins. So then you're just gonna fill each cup about 2/3 of the way full. And we've already got our oven preheating at 400 degrees. As I mentioned before, these muffins work really well with any additional types of fruit. I mentioned the frozen blueberries, but I've also put nectarines, raspberries, strawberries. You can go any which direction with these muffins. They're very versatile. I also want to mention, we're talking about these muffins as high fiber, and we used a very high fiber cereal that we ground up for this recipe. But if you're needing to have lower fiber in your diet, you can also substitute the dry cereal that we ground up here. You can substitute oats, raw oats, and just grind those up. And that will make this also a high fiber muffin, but a different type of fiber, a bit more digestively friendly fiber. So lots of modifications you can make to this particular recipe so that it suits your needs. All right, so we've almost got, the last one's always, actually, the fun part about doing this with the kiddo around, if you have a kitchen helper, is that they're very keen on showing me which ones didn't get enough. So going back through and making sure you're as even as possible with the distribution of the batter. That way you will have them bake evenly. Now let's say you're making these muffins and you end up with a completely empty section in your muffin tin. The kitchen hack for that is just to fill that particular cup halfway up with water so that you won't have any burning or scorching in that particular muffin cup. And if you don't end up with a yield of 12, that's a way you can get around that as you bake it. Just put a little bit of water in that particular section. All right, so 400 degrees for 20 minutes, and we're gonna stick these in the oven now. So here we have golden brown banana cinnamony muffins, smelling delicious. And I did want to mention that these, in addition to being high in fiber, are high in potassium. But if you don't have bananas on hand or you're not a fan of bananas, instead of using the 3 bananas we put into this recipe, you can instead use a half a cup of applesauce and a 1/4 cup of Greek yogurt. So as we take these out, I'm going to pop them up on a cooling rack. These will take just a few minutes to cool. Actually, I think they're best enjoyed warm. And for more nutrition videos along with exercise, expressive arts, and mindfulness, visit us at myzakim.dana-farber.org. Thanks for being with us today.